Some people have asked me how I go about lighting the die-cast cars that I feature in my videos. While it varies depending on the vehicle, there is some basic stuff that I use on every project, so I invite you to spend the next 15 minutes or so watching this condensed version of a project that actually spans several hours over the course of about 3 days. This die-cast is going to have headlights and taillights installed, a pretty simple job. I'm going to be lighting with these nano chip headlights and pico chip taillights. See a link in the video description for the website where I get all my LEDs. It's important to cover these points with masking tape. That'll prevent scratches while you're handling the thing. Next up, we remove the bottom bolts holding it together. Put those bolts someplace where you won't lose them. Prying these things apart sometimes takes a gentle touch and a lot of patience, so you don't break or scratch anything. The piece with the front seat and dash are removed because wires eventually have to pass beneath them. Moving on to the inside of the front fenders, the smashed plastic holding in the fake headlights has to be cut away so they can be removed. I've used increasingly larger drill bits to make an opening in which the LEDs will eventually be fastened. Time for the tedious chore of carefully carving away the fake taillight lenses without damaging the housings. I'm using a very tiny hobby drill to make a hole through the taillight housing. Next, you've got to pull the door side panels and rear seat out. Because of the way this die-cast is built, that rear body covering has to come off to allow installation of the taillight LEDs. Once again, it takes patience, some carving of plastic tabs, and a little hammer modulation to remove this piece. I'm using Bondic to fasten the LEDs in place and to make lenses for them. I'll put a link to that stuff in the video description below. It's a liquid resin, cures hard and clear with a brief application of the included ultraviolet light. Apologies for my hands getting in the way here. Test each newly installed LED, making sure you haven't shorted it out or broken wires while putting it in place. Better to find the flaws now than once you got the whole thing back together. After threading the wires through from the top, it's time to glue the rear outer body shell back into place. For this, I'm going to use quick grip glue, and I'll put a link to that product in the video description below. I apply it with a toothpick to avoid getting too much in any given area. For the sake of brevity, I already installed one of the headlight LEDs and made a lens for it with Bondic. Now let's get the second one in place. I bend the nano chip LED at a right angle, being very careful not to break the connecting wires from the chip. Then I coat it with Bondic on the bare wires just behind and around the chip so they won't short out on the metal in the die cast. Carefully positioning the chip, it's cemented into place with Bondic. And then the lens is very carefully built up by first filling the circle area, then putting additional resin in the center, and pulling outward with the applicator to create a dome. A burst of ultraviolet light sets it in place. And presto, headlights. Due to the way these LEDs are made, there's excess wire to hide. Here's how I go about that. Then the resistor and excess wires are fastened to the interior with Bondic. Leads from the headlights are twisted together. Reds go to reds, greens go to greens. Wires are added here to carry the headlight wiring to the area beneath the trunk. It's important to solder all the connections. Just twisting them together is not going to ensure a solid and lasting connection. I use heat shrink tubing to cover the connections. Make sure you use a size that's proper for the wires involved. While I use this torch lighter to set the tubing in place, you can also do it with the barrel of a hot soldering iron. Now let's put the coiled taillight leads in place beneath the trunk. Then those leads are paired, red to red, green to green. At this point, the wires from the headlights are joined to the paired taillight leads. Time now to make a hole in the base through which the wires will hook up the car to external power. This is usually a 12-volt supply under a model train layout. I found it's best to use drill bits for very hard materials when drilling into die-cast metal. Cheap bits are not going to last very long. This is the type of connector I use. It's available from All Electronics, and again I'll put a link to that in the video description. A very important step, prepare this knot. It eventually will be tightened and prevent pulling wires out the bottom of the die cast. Now I'll hook the quick connector wires to the paired leads in the car, being careful to connect the red to red. The black goes to the green lead. When putting the bottom plate on the body, it's important to be sure no wires get crimped between the two pieces. Since this is an open car that's going to be posed on a model railroad layout with its lights on, I feel I have to put a driver figure in it. The figure, by the way, is from Arttista. I'll put a link to them in the description as well. Bondic works just great for taillight lenses since it does dry clear. The plating on the taillight housings was rather poor, so I used a tiny brush to cover it with Tester's Chrome Silver. And a final step, painting the taillight lenses. It helps diffuse the light, making it even more even.